Hey guys, it's me, Codeflower2000 and welcome to my main channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about the Mozart of Conlangs, or the much better version of Polyhespo, Gqëbër, or should I say, Gqëbër. Gqëbër is a northern Plerian language evolved from Old Plerian called Plerian 0.1. The people there unironically put version numbers in the name Plerian because they wanted to distinguish one version from the next. Plus, this is an accurate representation of Old Plerian, Middle Plerian, and Modern Plerian. Gqëbër and Plerian diverged in separate ways, with Plerian becoming a language filled with sprinkles of Latin-based words, word combinations, becoming more sophisticated with nouns, pronouns, and verbs being able to be combined with the existing nouns. However, Gqëbër stayed true with its own order of word combination and cases, often related to Proto-Indo-European, but not based off of it at all. This was particularly useful if speakers wanted to say everything happening in one word, which was quite fine, but it relied on the context in order to be understood. Gqëbër is a polysynthetic and a naturalistic language, but it is neither an analytic language nor a flexible language. So if English sounds non-binary, French and Spanish sound feminine, and German sounds masculine, then Gqëbër is pangender and sounds agender. But before we continue, let's go through the background, the story of what inspired me to make this conlang. I was fascinated with the letter Q and the sound it made. Gl. It was actually the sound of the letter Q in Arabic. Golf. And as I looked at the IPA chart, one of Q's siblings was a voiced Q called the voiced uvular plosive. Gl. I apparently got the idea of how it was supposed to be pronounced, but that resulted my pronunciation of the voiced Q be a bit softer than the voiceless, so I ended up pronouncing it like a voiceless uvular nasal. Gl. It was at this point I found the sound to be a lot cuter and a lot cooler than the normal G sound, the voiced velar plosive. G. Gqëbër was initially an experiment for the utilization of the uvular G, the voiced Q sound, but it was complex in its consonant inventory, thanks to the actual inspiration of me trying to put as many sounds as possible and calling it a day. In hindsight, it's silly, but it's truly consistent and functional, at least most of the time. Then I tried to make a word using the voiced Q, and I ended up making this. Gqëbër, in which I tried making a proper romanization of this script as GQE with an umlaut, BE with an umlaut, R. I chose umlauts or diaeresis in this case for the word naive because they were simply elegant. I originally kept the word Gqëbër for a city, but that got me thinking. What if I created a language for that city and called it Gqëbëniska? I went with that name for a bit, then I realized that the name Gqëbëniska is similar to how Russian, Ukrainian, Polish, and a couple of other Slavic languages call themselves in their own language. So I just slapped Gqëbër as the language name, because why not? The language is really complex, so it's worth showing by the name. And that's how the language got developed into a masterpiece that we can see today. Anyways, Goober's consonants are ma, wa, na, nya, nga, nga, p, t, k, k, g, b, d, g, 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 t, ch, z, j, f, th, s, sh, sh, h, v, z, z, j, y, o, l, y, w, r, r, sha, la. This consonant inventory is vast and full of life right here. In fact, if you look at them in the vowels, they don't have a defined order of gemination at all. Gemination is what happens when you say a consonant or a vowel for a longer period of time. The vowels are e, u, e, o, a, 8 vowels. Wow! I thought there were gonna be more than that, but they're easy to pronounce if you take your time. Same goes with the consonants. But if you thought that was all, brace yourself for the diphthongs. I, ow, a, ia, ew, oi, ua, ui. Yes, just 8 diphthongs. They're apparently easy to pronounce, and the rest of the diphthongs have been replaced by consonant clusters, and they're typically used only for proper nouns, in which Goober calls it the absolute names. Yoltseni Klela Limuka. So who cares? Speaking of consonant clusters, Goober has 9 syllable structures. CV, VC, CVC, CCV, VCV, CVV, CVVC, CCVC, and CVCC. And also so many other bizarre consonant clusters like CC, VCC has in the word swags. meaning 6, which is a loan word from Proto-Indo-European. Speaking of the grammar, the whole thing is based off of cases, such that there's a particle to turn a noun into a verb into a noun into an adjective, and a verb into an adverb. And also the noun cases can be used for pronouns too. Normally, the modifier case suffix e or I is used to turn nouns into adjectives or adverbs. In Gqëbër, they're collectively called modifiers because they modify or describe nouns or verbs after them. However, in order to turn a verb into an adverb, we get to take the verbal case suffix out and just stick e or b if the noun ends with a vowel. There's also a verb subject case suffix, but it's usually used in the context of a person who does the action stated in the verb, such as the word for designer, singkotellen. As for turning irregular modifiers into nouns, the suffix lim or lim can be used to turn them into nouns. And now on to the cases. Actually, there are 46 of them, 10 of which are noun cases, 12 of which are auxiliary cases, 3 cases for person marking, including the undefined gender and feminine gender, and 20 tense cases, in which it has the ability to distinguish between near past and far past, and between near future and far future, all of which get their own plurals, which in turn gets to about 90 case markers in total. Actually, if you're doing the math, you could see that there may be over 90 of them, or over. And if we want to include the neuter pronoun case and feminine pronoun case, it would be about 92 case markers in total. And if the noun ends with a vowel instead of a consonant is added before a case suffix, which starts with a vowel, with some exceptions for a few of the auxiliary cases and tense cases, and a vowel is added before the one starting with the consonant. Pronouns are easy to use because they get treated the same like nouns, except the nominative plural case is not at all used in favor of the plural ones. The question words are simple though. It's nothing special, just the usual words. What's special though is the word combination. Using the auxiliary case and a word for here and there, we can make words for nothing, anything, everything, this thing, and that thing. And the same for other things, such as reasoning, method, frequency, and time marking, place, and person, quantity, and marking, including the untranslatable words tuho and taho, which roughly translates to this person right here and that person over there. Conjunctions are easy though, just the standard things you would ever see in English, and they function just like regular conjunctions, but with only one difference. The if particle comes after the first compound sentence, which is a self-sufficient sentence without an additional context. Articles are the easiest though. They're easy because they don't exist. A replacement for that, though, is the definitive case marker ka for words ending in vowels and uka for those ending in consonants, of which they have their plural forms ki and uki respectively. And also, I forgot to mention, there are only 2 prepositions, by and of. The others have been integrated into cases as we can see here. And there's the direction words which correspond to each direction. Oh, and what about the preposition out? Simple, just add och, the opposite prefix before the locative case. Locative, I don't know how to pronounce that, but I don't care, whatever. And auxiliary verbs like can are cases for each verb are replaced with cases as well, except they come before pronoun case suffixes. The nouns are pretty standard though, but what makes them different though is that they are based on sounds they make, or at least a perception of a noun nature. Remember I said earlier that we could make verbs using the noun suffix? Well, we can also make new versions of verbs from nouns. This also applies to common nouns for inanimate nouns, as well as animate ones, effectively replacing the word to be. Thus, to be or not to be is translated as janel, ne janel. Since the word to be depends on the type of subject or the object the person saying it is referring to. In this case, a person. That's why it's jen. Goober combines modifiers with nouns and combines modifiers with verbs through agglutination. However, combinations of modifiers are not combined with nouns or verbs by default, but it can be done whenever necessary. The numbers are a pretty cool adaptation of the Proto-Indo-European. However, in order to turn them into ordinal numbers, the modifier suffix is used and they are written after the noun they describe. So to summarize, the idea of a short functional sentence is that there's a noun and a noun case marker attached to it, and after a space comes a verb, or a noun turned into a verb with the verbal case suffix, then a case to mark the pronoun, and finally the tense case suffix. Except for the present simple tense, because the present simple case suffix doesn't exist. So articles don't exist, particularly the verb to be is not very well defined in Gqëbër, and the definition of it changes with the nouns. Now, how can we translate this excerpt from Twilight? Well, let's look at the bright side and see what we can do with the things we have in Gqëbër. First off, there's the word tun, which means decision. Now let's add the accusative suffix o to it. Then we'll add paching, which means change, then the verbal case suffix o, the auxiliary suffix, N for the auxiliary verb, can, and then E for changing the whole thing into a modifier, in which it can be used as an adjective or an adverb. And finally, the negative suffix, ne, at the beginning of the word for turning it into a negative. And that's how we get the final word, ne turnu pachingaleni, in which it means unable to change decisions, or in the single word in English, irrevocable. For a start, English has multiple words for the same meaning in different contexts, but trying to find meaning of the word from the context and plotting it in Gqëbër to mean the exact thing can be incredibly difficult. However, it can be done as shown in here. Using words to create combinations, we can get the meaning to perfection. As for the nouns themselves with collective information, let's focus on how I translated the first part about 3 things. I was absolutely positive. First, let's take the word yes, which is not a noun, and turn it into a noun using the noun suffix we talked about earlier. Then it becomes the word positivity. Then we can use the verb suffix to turn it into a verb, and add the first person suffix because the person saying it is the one doing the action. Finally, we can finish it all with the past tense suffix at the end. Then we can make the word absolute literally all certain by just taking the word sen, meaning certainty, adding the yol prefix to sen, meaning yolsen, meaning all certainty, or in other words, absolute. Then finish it off with a modifier suffix, then we get all certainly or absolutely. It's hard to know which is which because all certain means absolute, but in a way it doesn't fit the meaning of absolute. Rather, it means what it means, like in Tokipona. Finally, after constructing these 2 words, let's just combine them into one. And then we get yoltseni goili melulut. For the word unconditional though, the word sa for it can be turned into a noun using the noun suffix lim. Then it becomes salim or condition. Add the e suffix, then it becomes salimi, conditional. And finally, the negative prefix ne, then it becomes nesalimi or unconditional. As for the word nesli ralelulut for I didn't know, it was made by taking the word slira for knowledge, then turning into a verb, adding the pronoun suffix, and then the past tense suffix to show the action happened in the past. And by making combinations like these, we can totally describe simple things in just one word. How cool is that? Anyway, now we have a comprehensive knowledge of what the language is and what it does. So please sit back and listen to the excerpt from Twilight, translated into the Goober language. Alright, let's do this. Dalab yoltsini roili melulut trihi thedal. Onoli Edward Kzahi Janelenut Duohi Ta Pateletut Om Yanudef Is Uvalita Hualelelet Krom Neslira Lelulut Yasui Hasui Thugalatut Istrihi Yanove nesale mineta no pachingaleni luvilulith. Vosalethai zanelu. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye, and have a good day.